without a degree of social media literacy and the ability to really be present and conscious to what you're exposing yourself to and the effects it might have on you, it can be really easy to find yourself in a pit of content that actually ends up eroding a bit of your own mental health and, ends up being to your own detriment.
Hello, HalfPint here, and I just wanted to say real quick, if you've been enjoying my content, please remember to subscribe to the channel here on YouTube and follow me on Twitch so you can always catch us when we're live and see more content. Also, if you are new here, welcome in, and if you're enjoying the video, please remember to like it because it helps me out a lot. I also post funny clips and other things on TikTok. All the links are in the description below, and thanks again. Now let's get into the video.
And then last week, we talked about the media and body image, specifically as it pertains to all these outlets saying that the toxic heroin chic look is back. And just as a heads up, this content focuses on serious issues regarding body image and eating disorders. And with this, to get a better picture, we talked to Dr. Dara Greenwood, Dr. Carrie O'Grady, and Dr. Kimberly Dennis, with us discussing the harmful effects of social media treating bodies like a trend and how it can actually get into your head and perpetuate these negative messages in social comparison. And today, we are going to go more into that, but we're going to take a stab at a more kind of hopeful spin. I know that that's weird for this show, but we'll be doing that by focusing on the way social media and the body positivity movement can also allow us to push back against these trends. Right, when heroin chic emerged in the 90s, we didn't have social media, and there are pros and cons to that because social media can exacerbate these problems, but it can also be used as the solution. Right, over the last 10 years.
Yeah, no, that's kind of the double-edged sword with social media. Social media allows us all it allows anyone to learn about and appreciate and to some degree participate in any culture they want, which is beautiful. We're learning more about everyone than ever. Unfortunately, that comes with a heavy conversation of things like cultural appropriation. Where's the line? When is it supportive, productive, positive behavior, and when is it the taking of from another culture and using it Eurocentrically and still shaming it within the culture that it came from. It creates a lot of heavy conversations, but conversations that need to be had. And like content holes, people can get stuck in content holes. Obviously, I think all of us are aware of this to a because of whatever we're in. Like for me on TikTok, it's a lot of Midwest emo crap. It's a lot of non-binary people, a fair amount of feminism, and stand-up comedy for sure. But when I was younger, with like iDubbbz, Filthy Frank, H3H3, stuff like that, like little bit of a misogynistic alt-right content hole. Obviously, in the age of Andrew Tate, we see how easy it is for people to default to that content hole when it comes to young men. And when it comes to young women, there have literally been studies on Instagram and TikTok showing how quickly, if you are perceived by the social media app as a young woman, that it will push you body image based content, whether it's like dieting, exercise, all that sort of stuff. So like, and that content pendulum swings both ways. It can be a content hole saying like you're not thin enough and these are the impossible beauty standards you need to hold yourself up to, like the heroin chic look and other looks, or body positivity and self-love. It can swing both ways, but it's because of the psychologies of people and because of the algorithms behind apps. Obviously, the thing that tends to work best is the negative thing. That's going to make people interact with the content. That's going to make people watch the content. That's just kind of an unfortunate reality. So without a degree of social media literacy and the ability to really be present and conscious to what you're exposing yourself to and the effects it might have on you, it can be really easy to find yourself in a pit of content that actually ends up eroding a bit of your own mental health and ends up being to your own detriment.
It'll be interesting to see how much backlash this apparently new trend might get, how much critical scrutiny.
And that's actually the other thing that social media brings. Social media lets all the people who do oppose these toxic sort of behaviors and trends in our media gather together in places, and it lets the rest of us see that there are people who are saying this is unrealistic, this is unhealthy, here are better alternatives, or at the very least just calling it out for being unrealistic and unhealthy, you know. And that's important too, especially when it comes to even the stuff like Andrew Tate or like watching the police. That's like a big part of the reason why I try and cover / learn about the news on my channels at all, because I think it's important to add to those conversations and make sure there's at least this, like, my end of the perspective, my end of the spectrum's perspective present somewhere, you know. It's just about adding to the group conversation and trying to communicate this idea that, like, there are more opinions out there, just that sort of thing, especially in a time where we're seeing like leftist content creators get like I was about to say swatted, when leftist content creators get botted and banned off of platforms super easy, like Hassan Piker on TikTok, Austin Knox on TikTok, prime example right now, obviously. But just in general, I think it's important to have these opinions be out there and be heard, whether or not, you know, people think it's boring to listen to or not. I think it's important to make sure, like, if it doesn't seem important to you, then I guess it's not for you. But it's really because I know it took me a long time to learn certain things and unlearn other things. It took me a long time. Like, people were chipping away at my dam of, you know, internalized misogyny, which is still very much there to an extent. Internalized misogyny, internalized patriarchy, internalized prejudices, slowly over time, based off of media I exposed myself to, people I talked to in my life, and people I ended up idolizing. My dam was broken down and I grew as a person, and all I can hope to do is I'm so thankful, you know, that I've come to this place where I'm a little more emotionally aware. I try to lead with a little more empathy, and I feel better, and I feel more deeply connected to the people in my life as a result of it. And so I personally just feel like one of the best things I can possibly do is to just put stuff out there to try and chip away at other people's dams, the same way people chipped away at my dams, because it only happens when it happens for you. We all grow at our own rates, like I've said before. So I don't know. That's why this stuff matters to me. I feel like if there's a bunch of us out there just working to chip away at these dams, then the chances of society overall improving is better. Just trying to do what I think is the right thing, as long as I think it's the right thing, because I think the world would be great if everyone did that.
Scrutiny. I wonder if it will have as much traction as it seems that it might be gaining, when there can be these types of pushbacks that can happen at the level of social media. So I think it'll be interesting to see where the relative distribution is on kind of following this trend and supporting this trend versus kind of, you know, fighting against it or pointing out how problematic it is.
And it's something we've already started to see happen, right? If you look at tweets referencing heroin chic and other related trends, you'll find a ton of people calling it out for its toxicity, trying to mitigate the danger that it could pose to another generation. And then when it comes to the Kardashians, who we referenced last week for being a major face for this problem, perpetuating unachievable standards, their new Hulu series actually faced tons of backlash after people made it clear, hey, we're not going to watch this because of the obsessive way they talk about weight loss and thinness. Right? On that show, viewers are essentially watching them deal with their own insecurities in real time, but the way that they deal with it is harmful for those watching. And the cultural response to that can actually influence whether or not they continue spreading this kind of negative body talk.
We forget that these people are humans too, who very apparently have problems with their own.
That's exactly what I was thinking in my head. Like, I understand that, like, people don't want to watch it because the way they talk about things are triggering, but the unfortunate reality of that is that being women growing up in the public eye, there was an immense amount of pressure on them to live up to these unrealistic beauty standards. And some of their peers were even, a lot of their peers were even damaging their own lives, mental health, and bodies to try and fit themselves into these boxes that society's laid out for them. And that's the sad reality of it. Like, if you find it triggering and it's disturbing to you, you shouldn't watch it. You should protect yourself, protect your mental health, prioritize your own, sense of well-being before your entertainment, for sure. But the sad truth of that is it honestly speaks to how they probably also struggle with it just like the rest of us. And I would even go so far as to say is like a woman who is famous probably feels a pressure that we can't even imagine, with all the backhanded compliments from, paparazzi, press, your peers, directors, modeling photographers, all that crap. The industry that photoshops and like reshapes your body, so then when you see it you don't really recognize and you're like, oh, that's what they want me to look like. Just little things like that. So like that's all I hear. It's just like, yeah, this problem is so awful and runs so deep that even the most privileged among us are mentally unwell when it comes to handling these topics. That's how disgustingly unequipped our culture is with handling these sorts of issues and mental health issues. Like, it just sucks all around. And obviously, since they're celebrities, they end up contributing pretty big time to the perpetuation of that culture, but like, they're still trapped in the culture with the rest of us. Just because they are now happen to be in the driver's seat or one of the driver's seats doesn't mean that growing up they weren't just like subject to the propaganda like everyone else. Which, yeah, it's just like, it sucks for everyone.
Bodies and the way that they view their bodies and the pressure that society puts on their bodies. And so they project that onto an audience. And I think that in future seasons of the show, we will not see as much weight-centric conversations, dangerous dieting, and all of the other negative things that they put on audiences this season.
I believe that. I don't know if that'll be a decision. I mean, I don't even watch the Kardashian stuff, but it'd be interesting to know whether or not that decision is a result of editing differences, or if it's the result of, ideally, the family and the women becoming more aware that, like, okay, the way we talk about these things matters, not for their audience, mostly for themselves. Mostly for themselves to be like, like, if the way I talk about these things is triggering and not, God, I love your piece of artwork behind you, the Starry Night. I have it right here. But if it's harmful to my supporters and my fans, it's almost certainly harmful to me. So what can I do to make me feel better, me healthier? Because that's like the best way. It's like the lead by example, that whole thing, and that would just be so good. It's always so good when someone moves past an issue and gets to a better, more secure place. That's good. Even if I don't particularly enjoy the person, like I don't particularly enjoy any of the Kardashians, but like still rooting for them to like not have miserably tortured lives as a result of, impossible societal expectations thrusted upon them. That still sucks for anyone, even if you're kind of a shitty person.
Because they got so much backlash from consumers being smart enough to say, we've had enough of this.
Right. And this is all thanks to a lot of things, including the power given to consumers by the body positivity movement.
As consumers, as citizens, as concerned parents, as recovered people, we have a say. I think body positivity is going to stick around. And my hope is that the body positivity movement will get even louder.
Right. And if you're unfamiliar, like what the body positivity movement is supposed to be is about loving and accepting.
And I love that Phil has actually really been vocal about his experience with, body dysmorphia, eating disorders, and just like his struggle with weight. Because I think a lot of people, consider it to be a feminine thing to worry about your weight or whatever, but it's not. It's a societal thing. We do this to everyone. We have different expectations for different genders, and obviously, sadly, a lot of those expectations are very binary, and they're expectations of the genders, which makes things very confusing for those of us who find ourselves more or less in the middle of the spectrum, or just non-binary in general. But whatever, you just kind of end up having to make your own decision based off what you like. But my point is, I think it's really cool and good that Phil has also been trying to be a big voice for this, especially because I don't know this, but I know at one point his audience was mostly men, and I have to assume a decent section of his audience is still a fair amount of men. So having someone like him bring that perspective to the other side of the table, the proverbial table, quote unquote, I think could do a lot in terms of helping a generation of men be less critical of women in general.
And celebrating your body, no matter what it
Not even women, bodies in general.
looks like. Saying no matter what size you are, you don't have to conform to beauty standards to be beautiful, which is especially helpful because they keep fucking changing so much. And even it's because they're trying to move more product. It's something that a lot of companies and fashion brands have gravitated towards over the last 10 to 15 years. And as it turns out, these kinds of images and rhetoric do make a difference.
There is definitely evidence that body positivity and kind of expanded imagery, expanded diversity of body and beauty ideals is beneficial and important.
But that also doesn't mean that the problem's fully solved, right? If it did, we wouldn't be talking about it on the show. There have been limitations in its influence and impact, and even with the core of its message.
Even some of the body positivity work can still keep people focused on their bodies,
which is in
and
itself
still
a
focused
problem.
on the value of appearance. You know, love the body you have and you're beautiful no matter what. It's like, but the punchline is still beauty. And there's still this relentless emphasis on beauty.
And so you'll also see headlines either critiquing body positivity or even just shifting to body neutrality, which that essentially means accepting and respecting your body over loving it, right? Prioritizing what your body does and its functions over its looks, right? You don't have to love or hate your body, you just try to accept it and feel neutral about it, with the belief being that it can take away some of the pressures that some might feel. And a key thing for many is
I agree 100%, because like, that's basically where I'm at for a long time. And I still go through moments where I hate my body or hate things about my body. But for a long time, I just objectively hated my body. Like, just did not... I still don't really like looking at myself in the mirror. I can remember... Oh, God, this is going to get deep. I can remember when I was in, like, first grade, literally looking at myself, like, in the mirror and, like... just staring, like playing with my face, just desperately trying to understand, why does my face look different? Why did it look wrong? Because it always did to me. And this lasted for so long in my life. This literally didn't go away until I came out as non-binary. But this was a problem my entire life. I know this isn't quite the same as body positivity. God, I'm gonna get emotional. But I just remember like looking around at everyone else and feeling like there was this normal thing about people. There was something about the way people looked, just in their faces inherently. And something was missing from my face, or something was there that shouldn't have been there. I was never able to figure out if it was something missing or something added. But I knew I felt wrong looking at my face. And I remember all the time growing up just staring at my face, trying to figure out like why, like what's wrong. And the truth, I think, of what that was is, on some level, even me as a child, seeing all these societal and body expectations of men, because I was being raised male and I was male presenting, and fundamentally understanding on some level that wasn't right for me. That didn't feel right. That wasn't me. And there was something wrong. And I legitimately held that belief and would always cringe a little anytime I looked at myself in the mirror, other than just like checking to make sure everything's cool. Until I eventually realized that feeling kind of went away after I had come out as non-binary, and I started actively trying to address that part of myself and understand that feminine side of me. So for a long time, I objectively hated my body, but by getting to that point where I finally like realized that's the reason I felt that way, like now I'm just at a place where I at least feel neutral. You know, I don't love the way I look, but I at least feel like I have more of an understanding of why things are the way they are, and I'm happy that I have this understanding, and I'm happy that my body is capable of doing all the things I need it to do. I do wish I had more time to like work out more and take care of myself, but that's not to like be muscular or to be like attractive or to achieve some kind of beauty. It's literally from the idea of I would like to be less sedentary. I know the times in my life when I've worked out, I have seen a direct correlation in my self-esteem going up, just because I feel like I'm taking care of me. Taking care of me is good. I feel good because I know I'm doing something productive and good for me. So just because of the mental health side effects, but like, yeah.
Takes appearance out of the focus.
When we stop focusing on image so much, we get to a body neutral.
Yeah.
And I love the body neutral movement because it really works with whatever body you have and how to take care of it from a medical perspective, a mental perspective,
exactly,
and just an overall wellness perspective.
Right. A lot of these terms we just didn't have in our vocabulary back in the 90s. We definitely didn't have
And
this.
it's so weird to me that like we always talk about like body positivity, you know, like prioritizing like health. And then people always say like health as well as mental health, or health and mental health. They are the same thing. Our mind is like arguably the most important part of our body, other than maybe like the heart or lung or something like that. But like, you know what I mean? It's like to take care of yourself, to take care of your body, and to really look after your body positively 100% involves looking after your own mental health and doing what's best for you in that regard as well. And that's awesome that there's a body neutral movement or body neutrality movement that's coming out that brings that to the conversation.
Well, I personally can kind of like eye roll at the overcomplicated way that, you know, we talk about certain things. I can't really do that here because I have so many fucking complicated feelings when it comes to weight and health and the visuals and how I feel about my body, which is why, you know, I think it's important we have these conversations, but also I want to use this opportunity to say, hey, there are support groups for those in recovery, for people who are struggling, where you can connect with people who understand you and you don't have to feel alone.
I think that social is actually much more beneficial to use as a support community for people who are going through the same things you are. There's also a really educational component of self-compassion on social media.
So it's not all negative. There are places that can actually lift people up. I know, seems unheard of, but where other people from all around the world can say, hey, I've been there too, let me help. And I will say personally with this story, I don't know if torn is the right word, but I'm not fully locked in on anything. Personally, I respect the idea of body neutrality, and it probably just speaks to I need to work on myself a lot more, but I don't know how to accomplish that. And I know everyone is different. Different approaches work for different people. Some gravitate towards body positivity, some to body neutrality. This is just where I'm at and how I feel. Because, and I'll probably get shit from a number of different people because nuance and people trying to figure things out in public, that usually doesn't go over well. But like with my health journey, there are a number of factors at play. I deal with so many conflicting feelings. But for me personally, it's hard to be neutral about my body. Right, a number of things for me went hand in hand. Sure, I didn't like the way that I looked and I wanted to change that, but also I had health problems. I also wanted to be stronger, more flexible. I wanted to feel good about like my ability to do things as I get closer and closer to 40. And for me, changing up.
But I think what Phil's saying there actually factors into body neutrality, because even when he was just saying there, none of that stuff was body image focused for the most part. I wanted to be stronger, more flexible. I was worried about the things my body could accomplish. Those are looking at like the functional purposes of your body and like the what can it actually accomplish for you and how does it help you live your life. It's not focused on looking better or, you know, becoming that image of a person, that buff person that like people seem to like. It has nothing to do with this is what people find desirable or I want to be attractive. It comes everywhere from I want to be healthy. I want to take care of myself. And I think that's good. You don't have to be in freaking amazing shape to be taking care of yourself or to of taking care of yourself. You just have to be healthy. And there's tons of different shapes and sizes we can be and still be healthy. Tons.
Up my day-to-day diet for something that was sustainable and changing what I do as far as working out, like it helped all those things. What I found rewatching the full interviews and looking over this piece in general is, right, that focus on strength and appreciating what my body can do is actually in line with some body neutral beliefs, right? Even though I'm not like putting that label on myself. So it definitely does have ways that it can make an impact, right? I can see where that has the power to resonate with someone. And then, and I feel like if you've been on a journey like this, maybe this resonates with you. Seeing and feeling those changes help me stick to it. Like for me personally, I feel like I had to focus on that, or really anything that I'm trying to stick to, because if I don't have my hands on the rail, I'm just free falling through life. And I say all of this kind of mid-journey, right? I'm not at the top of the mountain, and, you know, for something that you maintain through your life and it's just a part of you, I don't even think there is necessarily a top of the mountain. So I'm also open to the idea that the mindset that I have right now over time could potentially turn toxic. But with all of that said, I think where I want to end this is, yes, this is a story. Yes, I'm very thankful we have experts on, but what I really hope from this segment is that we can actually have a conversation. And beyond that, maybe for, you know, 1, 2, 3 people, this is something that really resonates with them, and they can also talk about with the people in their real life. But yeah, let me know what you think about the story in general, body neutrality.
I think a big part of all of this would just honestly be more diverse representation, because that's like huge. I mean, even back what I was saying about like growing up, me as a child probably would have been way different if I had representation. I probably would have started asking myself some important questions that I asked myself much later at a much younger age, if I would have been in any way aware at all of the existence of non-binary people. I think that would have made things a lot clearer early on. There is a lot of things about me growing up really young that pointed that way, and then when I got a little older and realized that those were, you know, feminine things, feminine behaviors or desires, I pretended basically it all never existed and like tried to move away from it as possible, and looked at it as like a really awkward time in my life. And then eventually that, along with a slew of other behaviors and instances in my life, became painfully obvious when I finally was asking myself some questions and learning things about myself that I'm non-binary. I literally have just been non-binary my entire life, but at some point in my life, because of lack of representation in education, I didn't know that it existed, so I hated a big part of myself, much like anyone with body dysmorphia would, because of all of the images that are forced on them. And I struggled incredibly with my body image, with my self-perception, with just the way I felt so much. And it took a long time in education and talking to other people and exposure to representation to like get me to the point where I am now, which has also brought me to a point sometimes of body neutrality. Like that's about as good as it gets for me. I don't think I ever feel like really positive about my body, but I definitely can say that body neutrality, while I wasn't familiar with the concept until this, but that makes perfect sense to me. And I do think that is a really productive space to be. At least it is for me at this current point in my journey. I could definitely understand how shifting into specifically body positivity and focusing on like, love yourself, love me, love me, love me, could really be needed and help after you've grown up in a society that's basically said the exact opposite about you and to you indirectly your entire life. I could see how going really hard the other way might help build that wall and resilience to get you to that point of neutrality. So definitely don't think there's anything wrong with positivity. I do think it still is a little too focused on the image, but it might just be a stepping stone on the journey. You know, everyone starts at a different point, and so long as they're heading the right direction and attempting to do the right thing, that's great.
Thanks for watching, guys. Follow me on Twitch to join us live, like and subscribe, and I will catch you later.